everyone out there. Welcome again to another episode of the Wrist Cheese Radio podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bro Dinky, and with me is the man who goes by only one name, Mr. Schmidt, in the ilk of Chingy and Shakira, of other people who go by only one name.
Yes. Okay. I was like, where
Not
are we
musical
going with
artists.
I was like, where are we going with this? I'm not famous, nor do I have any money or any lyrical talent. So,
In other news, we've hit episode 8. Schmidt, how does that feel?
it's good, man. It's amazing to see that people are still hanging out with us and listening to our horological hot takes, our taboo topics, and our unpopular watch opinions. So thank you guys for joining us on episode 8. How are you doing, my friend?
Things are pretty good here. Last week was a bit of a doozy. Like I said, Thanksgiving was going to be a real ass kicker, but survived. Got a lot of compliments on the turkey, so can't complain
Good.
too much. Yeah,
That's good. That's good. How many birds did you end up putting out there?
I think I wound up cooking 70.
70 turkeys. And
20
people are
20 pounds a
terrified.
pop.
Yeah, and people are terrified to like make one. That's insane. Anyway, well, that's good, man. I'm glad you had a good Thanksgiving. How's everybody else doing? Everybody's okay?
The family's got a little bug going around. Kids are a little sick.
Okay.
Passed it on to me, as generous as they are, which was really nice. And
The gift that keeps on giving.
I
my
was
friend.
worried. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to make the episode because I was a little hoarse.
Yeah.
But things have cleared up for the better. Yeah, Lucci's got pink eye, which is interesting.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Been giving him giving a 9-month-old eye drops is an interesting experience.
Yeah. And anything with kids and illness is never a good day. So I feel for you, my brother.
Yeah. How's
So
everything
what's
on
up?
your end?
No, it's good, man. It's good. No complaints here. Nobody, sick. But as with anything towards the end of the year, there comes a stress of the holiday season, and it's both enjoyably fun and also terribly stressful and
Yeah.
panic-inducing, as I'm sure you are experiencing now. But it's good. Christmas is right around the corner. It's always a treasure time for me and my family. So I could not be more excited for the end of 2021.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can't, to be honest. I think everybody's just looking forward to the future. Little by little.
I think we need a good reset. That's what we said last year, 2020.
Yeah, we did.
So hopefully 2022 turns out to be a much better.
Yeah.
Hold
Hold out for optimism there.
Exactly.
But in the vein of holding out for optimism in 2022, rather than looking back on a year like many people do, we wanted to look forward. So we wanted to take the approach of what we'd like to see more of in 2022, a wish list of sorts, whether
Okay.
it be a model, kind of a theme, an accessory, whatever it might be. What do we want to see in 2022?
I like it.
And so I will lead off with my idea. The first one I have, I don't think it's going to be that surprising to people because I talk about it all the time, is that I'm really enjoying what seems like a slow transition back to smaller size watches.
Okay.
I've owned everything up and down from, 34 millimeter all the way up to 45. I can't even remember how big the Arnie is I have, even though it's mostly plastic, so it really doesn't wear that bad. I've owned the gamut. And every time I just keep coming back to 34, 36, 38, anywhere in there.
Yeah.
And just that classic size just fits so well. And you always have those insecure bros who claim small watches are not for men or they're not masculine. And then you go back not that long ago where the average size of a watch was 36. And then even farther back, they were probably closer to like 28 or 32. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched Boardwalk Empire. It's back.
Yeah.
It's about Atlantic City. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I can't remember when it's set. I want to say it's set in like the 1920s because it's Prohibition. So I want to say it's the 1920s. And all the watches in that show are tiny.
Yeah.
But they're all like that Art Deco tank shape, but they all look so good. And these are on full-grown men. Bobby Cannavale's not a small dude. They look great with the suits and the hats. Like, it's just a classic look, and I don't think you can really deny that. And I love it. I know not everybody loves it, but I love it.
No, I think that this is a good hill to be on because I'm with you on this. I think naturally the industry for many, many years, we were getting these like gargantuan Stallone-esque, Jason Statham-esque, Rocky Balboa, just massive watches. And we've slowly started to see those numbers, the case size, the case dimensions, kind of slowly working themselves back. I mean, even what was it, Panerai? They just released like their first ever 38 millimeter watch.
Yeah.
This is a company that historically has made massive timepieces for many, many, many years. And here they are trying to really slim down their sizing. So I think if this is any indication where the industry's headed, I think that this is going to happen. I think in the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing things downsize more and more. And it's going to be good for the industry. So I'm with you on this. And it's really funny that you mentioned the Art Deco thing, because in kind of our preliminary talks about this, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go with this and what I would love to see. And I've just been seeing kind of, I think, the teasings of what might be a new trend in the industry. And I think, as you pointed out, it's maybe a return to Art Deco style. And I really would like that. There's something very classic about the topography of that generation, the styling, the case dimensions that were just so quintessentially cool and classic. And I think that if watch brands could give us something unique and special outside of your traditional tank, outside of your traditional, reverso, something else, I think would do really well. I mean, hell, Oris just dropped that brand new rectangular case with the colorful straps. It looks like it may be marketed more towards ladies, but I kind of dig it.
It's like those new Cartier Solars they made too, in the different colors, burgundy, green, blue. Like, I think with the popularity rise of Cartier, I think that's a big possibility. Just kind of across the industry in general.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see it. Just give me something else. Give me some options. I want to see a return to rectangular case watches because I think they're very elegant. They look really cool. But, give me some updated specs, because the biggest attraction with rectangular cases is water resistancy, because they're kind of hard to really seal. Usually everything's pressed together and fit. There's no screw down components that way. So they can be a little bit more difficult day to day, but give me something with a decent water resistance. It's going to be more of a dressy piece. I think that is going to kill. So hopefully, this is my prayer for 2022. We start seeing something a little bit more edgy. Give us some classic style, but some new stuff. I want to go back to some older things, and size wise too. I want to go smaller.
I was going to say, I think with that case shape and those dimensions, you're going to have smaller watches, just because really big rectangular watches look kind of dumb.
Yeah, they do. They don't wear well.
Yeah. And I know some people are going to say, 34, but like not even that long ago, Rolex was releasing OPs and Air Kings in 34. Like, actually, I think one of the before the most recent gen of Oyster Perpetual, didn't they release that green one? I think it was 34. It's like a green Oyster Perpetual with orange accents.
I
want to say it was 34. I really do want to say it's 34.
Well, I know historically and classically, what was it? It wasn't the Datejust, but the Rolex Date.
Yeah,
like that was a 34 or 35 millimeter.
And those are killer. Those are like some of my favorite Rolexes.
They look great. I mean, it's just a good design, but it's in a smaller compact size. And you're right, the Air King, those were traditionally 34 millimeter, if my memory serves me correct. So there is precedent here for this, and a lot of guys like that. And especially now, we have a lot more people that are smaller stature. They want something a little bit more compact. I feel like everything's kind of going that way anyway. A 34 millimeter timepiece is pretty awesome. And last time I checked, Don Draper looks pretty freaking good in a 35 millimeter Seamaster DeVille. Like, I'm sorry, you're not gonna sit here and convince me that dude is not a manly man rocking that type of watch. It's just the rest of the industry has been hyper programmed to wear these gigantic beasts that now we kind of have to go the opposite direction.
Yeah, and look, I'm realistic. I realize this isn't going to work for every watch, and that a complex style can't always be small, and that there are certain things that look better bigger, right? Most Fliegers are going to look better bigger.
Yeah.
That's inescapable. And I'm not saying everybody across the board should just downsize everything.
No.
But to me, the best part about having a small watch is I feel like the entire package fits within like your glance. Like you take a look at it and you get the entire thing. Where when you have a larger watch, it's hard to focus on looking right at it and then seeing the entire thing. When I check the
Yeah.
time on, let's say, a 36, I'm seeing the entire watch. When I'm checking the time on a bigger watch, like a 44, I feel like I'm seeing where the hands are,
Yeah.
and that's kind of it.
And you kind of have to search for what you're looking for. It's like you see the time and then you're like, okay, there, like you see the hands and then you're referencing the time, right? Like it's, and in large part that was due to necessity. Like I think you said it right. Like Fliegers, like they don't look good small
No.
because they were never designed to be small. Like that was a watch built out of necessity to be a larger timepiece because of legibility's sake. Like that was just, it was very hard to see the time in a World War II bomber while you're doing night raids in complete darkness, unless that thing is gigantic. Okay, make it big. It's easier to see. Most watches don't need to do that because you
Right.
don't have that level of complexity in that usage. So it can be just a standard thing. So I mean, for me, most people know, that have talked to me. I have a vintage Seamaster. It's 34 millimeters. I love that watch to death. When I put it on, I don't ever feel like it is small. It feels like it is exactly the right size it was supposed to be. And I know that this word gets thrown around a lot. People call it svelte, right? Like it's just kind of like a funny word to be like, oh, my watch is small, but it still has presence. Like it's like, no, it's just small, but it really is. Like it has that feeling. Like it's a smaller, compact look, but it doesn't look delicate. It doesn't look wimpy. It looks beefy, right? Like, and it's funny, like the case design for this particular Seamaster, it was what collectors called the beefy lugs because
Yeah.
it's got a little bit more shoulder to it. It's got a presence, and even though it's small, it's like it looks good. I get compliments on it every time I wear it, so somebody likes it.
Yeah. Well, I just think everything looks very proportionately even when you have a smaller watch, concise, but it's still legible, which is really,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's the name of the game.
yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. I've recently become very, I guess, obsessed visually with things being like neat and concise on my watches. And I don't know what it's from. I don't know if it's just my career bleeding over or what. Like my mental block with certain watches, I look at them and if they're spaced out too much or they're, I don't want to say asymmetrical because there's plenty asymmetrical watches that do it for me, but certain ones with just like really awkward symmetries and things, I just
Yeah.
can't get over that hump on them. And I just think the smaller watches just carry themselves so much better in that regard.
Mhm.
And I think you're going to see things coming down. I mean, even just
Yeah.
recently, right? Oris released that, we talked about the pointer date last
Yeah.
time out. Now they released one. It used to be 40. Now it's 38.
Somebody give us can we just take a moment to just like take a magic ball and like go back to episode from a week ago? And it's like, did we call it or did we call it?
That was pretty
like,
wild.
I was like, we're talking about pointer dates. Brand new Oris pointer date with the 400 series caliber comes out literally like on Monday. I'm like, what is happening? And then we strike lightning twice because the Doxas
That was pretty good.
I was like, what is happening with this? Like, how did this come to fruition? It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, well, there you go. Like, now I'm going to have to go find some cash and put my money where my mouth is and eventually go buy this dang thing. Because I told everybody that
if
wanted
it came out, I'm buying it.
I just, the only thing for me is like, I don't know which color that I want.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because they're all good. And I already have a sub 300 with the professional dial, the orange. So I don't need the classic Doxa orange.
That Caribbean is nice.
The Caribbean, I've always been a sucker for the Caribbean. I really have. That blue and orange colorway looks really cool. I wonder if it's too close to my sub 200 Doxa, which is the blue dial, like the navy blue dial. So I'm just kind of thinking like, I think I need to go balls to the wall and just be like diving star yellow or the aquamarine turquoise. Just like, just do it.
I like the aquamarine.
I just, something about it that light blue has always really called to me. And especially since Doxa started kind of like experimenting with that colorway, like every time I see it, I like it more. And I think maybe that's the way I have to go if I do.
It's not
do
so
600T.
It's not so turquoisey in person. It's more like a Carolina blue, like that Tar Heel.
Yeah,
blue.
I've only seen once one of those in person. I saw one at the Watches of Switzerland store in New York in Soho because they carry the Doxes there, and I got a brief glimpse at it through the case, and I was like, it looks good. It looks real good. And now, granted, this is before the 600T came out. This was the regular professional line, the sub 300s, and then the new sub 200s with the same colorways, but they look good. It's like I really want that color. So although it may be not the most masculine color out there, you know what? It's good. I think that might be the one. So we'll see. We'll see. Now I got to convince the CFO that I need another watch.
Yeah, but that, like I said, they decreased the size of that pointer date. It was, I know they offered it in 40 and 36, but this one falls in at 38. The case dimensions seem very clean on it. But I gotta say, they took off some of my favorite features.
I know you were telling me about this.
The old pointer tip that has kind of like the two prong. I like that a lot. I don't really like the red arrow.
It plays with my eyes a lot because I think it's a GMT. Like I keep looking at it, and visually I'm confused with the fact that it's a GMT. And I get it. Like Oris has had a lot of different pointer date hands over the years. Like I remember the one I talked about last week's episode. That was my sister's friend's pointer date. It was literally just a flat stick. So it meant like a T at the end. So it didn't have the curve to it because the most recent one that we were talking about last time, it has kind of like that little like half moonish.
It's like a groove, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of like flares out. And it's got like a half moon shape on the other side of it. Now it's just a straight arrow tip.
Yeah.
So they've had precedent for other types of handsets, but it's just like, I'm with you. Like I like it. If somebody handed to me and was like, here, I want you to have this, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's horrible. I would never wear it. It's just like you, there was something a little bit more, maybe it's whimsical about the other one that I think I liked better.
And the cathedral hands. Why would you take those off? Come on. I literally just got done gushing about them last week, and then we're getting rid of them.
You know, man, it's modernity. It's modernity.
It is. Reject modernity.
Yeah, reject modernity. It's just like people want conservatism in style as much as they want kind of crazy off the wall stuff. There's really kind of like those two camps. Like I'm the guy over here rocking a turquoise Doxa, and some guys like, can I just get a black dial die watch? Yeah. Right? There's kind of that thing. So I think for most people, maybe the fence post style hands is a little bit more palatable in the day to day than the cathedral type.
Yeah. You have like SKX versus Orange Monster. Like
exactly,
black SKX,
right?
Orange Monster.
Exactly. It's like those two different, it's like the red pill and the blue pill. Like which one are you going to take? Which watch collecting journey are you going to dive down? So that's pretty cool. What else do you have? What's kind of your next main aspirational, hopeful thing in 2022?
Okay. I would like to continue a theme that has been somewhat hot recently, and that is mil-spec. The mil-spec aesthetic. I don't want to say mil-spec down to the idea that a watch is made to the exact specifications that its old military heritage used to be. Like that doesn't really matter to me that much, but the mil-spec look, like that Belova mil ships.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like that's a tight watch. Like the new Hamilton pilots, the Timex Expedition North, like anything military looking, that Dirty Dozen look to it, like just gets me. And that's field watches, Fliegers, whatever. Like for some reason, I'm just a sucker for anything military inspired. They just feel super relevant. And I don't know if it's just because it harkens back to a time when the world felt like it needed watches, or just that they were tough and, you know, they were built with tritium and they just felt super purpose built, where now I know we just wear them as accessories, and I don't play myself and be like, we need these, or these are tools and we use them every day. Like I use it to keep time. That's what I do. I check the time. I see how my efficiency is going for the day. Like that's the maximum I do with my watches. But it's that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, for me, it's the nostalgia, right? It's like watches were always built to have a purpose. Now we associate them as like luxury items, right? Like It's like, oh, I spent $6,000 on a Seamaster. It's a luxury watch. When you think about like the lineage of a Seamaster, it was like, we're going to call it a Seamaster because it can conquer the sea, the ocean, not your 10-foot swimming pool with a Corona beer, right? Like, we're talking about the actual wild, crazy ocean. Like, you're going to go diving and do all these crazy things in this watch, and it's going to hold up to it. And I think you and I, we've talked about this before. Our collecting journey is very similar in how we think about things. Because for me, I'm always drawn to tool watches, and that's why for me, divers are such a big part of my collection. Not even so much because I'm a diver, because I just love the utility of that type of watch. I know that no matter what, I'm not going to break it. I'm not going to damage it. There's nothing that I'm going to do to this piece that it cannot handle. Now, it may get beat up and scratched and dinged and all that stuff, but that's part of the ownership process. Like, that just happens. And we talked about that before. But it's the idea that when you strap it on, it has a purpose. And I think so many of us forget that, is because we're associating the cost of these things with, replacing the fact that these were at one point a tool, right? And the reason why they're expensive is because they used to be functional tools, and they were the best that you could get for your money. Like, it was a quality thing, right? But it's so funny that you mentioned the mill ships. Like, I have a collector friend of mine. I've talked about him before. He just got it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he just got it, and I've been waiting to catch up with him because I want to see it in person. He went on a watch buying spree. Like, this guy, shout out to you. You know who you are. He went on a watch buying spree. He bought the brand new Omega chronoscope like a month ago or 2 months ago. He got the blue dial with the silver subdials.
Okay.
So he bought the chronoscope, loves it. He got a call from the AD and was like, hey, we got an Apollo 8 dark side in.
Ooh.
So he bought that too, like within 2-3 weeks later, right? And so he was like, all right, I got to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. I got to chill. And next thing you know, he's like, yeah, I bought a mill ship. So I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, the Bulova. He's like, I bought a Bulova mill ships. He bought a green dial Seiko Presage. It's got like this kind of textured dial. It's got, I think, half Arabics and half sticks on it. It was on a leather strap. It looks amazing in person.
That's the one my buddy has. I talked about it last week. He's got the Speedmaster. It's that one, I can tell you.
Okay, yeah, it's a gorgeous watch. So I got to see that one this week, and I was like, man, I was blown away. And then he just picked up the Messina Lab Big Eye Chrono, the limited edition, like an avocado green dial. I'm like, dude, bro, like, he's like, you gotta, like, is your bank account okay? Like, do we need to have an intervention for you?
You need some help moving some stuff?
I'm just like, well, I mean, that's the thing. He does make room in his collection, so he moves stuff out. He does do that. So like that green dial, the green dial Presage, he sold to a friend of mine. But I'm just like, man, you're on a roll, my friend. And it's so funny. It's just like, I have to go see this watch because I've been wanting to see it. And he's like, it's awesome. He's like, it's weird, 16 mil lugs. It's a big case. It looks very funky, but he's like, it's a poor man's Blancpain. And I'm just like, I like that. So I got to check it out. We'll see. I'll have to show you a video report or a photo report when I get to put hands on it.
While we're talking about Seamasters, maybe you'll know the answer as an Omega aficionado. How did they get so many old references with the name Seamaster on it, even though they weren't particularly diver-y?
What do you mean?
Like, you have the old Seamaster, like the Cosmics and stuff, like all those 35 millimeter kind of dress watch looking ones. How did they wind up with the name Seamaster on them?
Oh, well, you have to remember, I mean, the Seamaster line was basically what we would consider today a dress watch when it first launched. So the collection debuted in 1948, 3 years after the conclusion of World War II. And what was unique about the Seamaster family was basically Omega was a major supplier to the British military during World War II. They were creating essentially prototype watches for use during combat.
Okay.
And these were watches that were designed and engineered to have somewhat of a high water resistance, shock resistance, and a magnetic resistance at that time. And once the war was over, basically Omega was like, hey, we kind of had all this R&D that was used during the war. Like, let's see if we can make this a commercial product and sell it. And they took all that information that they learned from wartime watches and adopted it to a commercial version and they called it the Seamaster family, and that was debuted in 48. What was unique about the Seamaster is it was one of the first watches ever in history to use a rubber gasket to seal the case from moisture.
Oh.
Up until that point in time, everything was using like lead, shellac, cork. There was a lot of weird things that they were using, and so watches would be very good under certain circumstances, but they weren't always good and resistant at different depths, different temperatures, different pressure levels, and so they were prone to leaking. So the O-ring rubber gasket for the Seamaster became really the way to seal it. And as you know today, I mean, like that's 99% of the watch industry
The standard.
uses that system. Yeah, exactly. So like my vintage that I'll show you, I mean, like this Seamaster, like that was the Seamaster when it came out. Like this was the watch
that's the one I'm thinking of.
This is the watch that Omega was marketing as like, this is the gentleman's like seafaring sports watch. And like, you're like, wait, that's not a sports watch. That's like a cocktail tuxedo dress watch by today's modern standards. But back then, that was what we considered to be like an over-engineered, tough as nails activewear watch. Because for the first time, you could now like comfortably submerge your watch underwater. You didn't have to take it off to wash your hands. You didn't have to take it off if it was raining outside. Like this was a luxury at that time, and Omega really kind of helped to solve that problem with the introduction of this collection. So, it wasn't until later that we started to see the Seamasters that we know today as like the tough divers, like the 300, the Ploprof, and things like that. So,
yeah, I've heard a lot of people ask that question. I've never found the answer out. So, figured I would ask.
Okay, well, I'm glad. I mean, not that we were trying to get into that segue, but hey, you know, we're here for the education as well. So
no, I think it fits right with the military thing. And
yeah,
I think the cool part is you can still buy watches used by the military today.
Yeah.
As far as Marathon sells you actual watches that they use in the military.
Yeah.
And they come in a little cardboard box. I don't know if you ever got one from them. It's a tiny, like skinny cardboard. There is no frills.
It's because it's all government issue, man.
Yeah.
It's all like you said, it's all mil spec. So it's basically like you bought this watch, government. Like your soldier's gonna throw the cardboard box in the trash can because that's where it belongs. And as long as we can keep the packaging safe and send it out, then it's good to go.
Yeah, and I'll give my my Hodinky homeboy a shout out. Cole Pennington actually just released an article about this, and it's instead of buying something in the military aesthetic, why don't you just buy something the military actually uses, like the real thing? And he's talking about Marathon watches, which is again kind of cool. They use tritium. They have different, you could buy in different movements and everything, and they're kind of priced all over the place, which is nice because not everybody needs like the super badass one. But
yeah. No, not everyone needs a Sea Star or not a Sea Star, but the SAR watches, search and rescue watches. So yeah,
but that's cool.
It's true. I mean, it's true. And what's funny is since we're kind of on Omega and Mil-Spec, is like a lot of people don't realize today, and this is not really openly discussed, but Omega actually makes watches for specific military outfits around the world. To this day, yes. So historically, this kind of started back in World War II, as I mentioned. But even still today, like the British Special Operations Units, the SBS, the SAS, some special Canadian forces, Australian military. There's been Italian police units and stuff like that, like basically like paramilitary or like SWAT teams. Omega secretly makes watches for these people. And
that's sick.
And like nobody knows this, but it's like you'll find it kind of teased on like the dark ends of the forums on the Omega Watch forums, but it's not open information that a lot of people know about. But it's still kind of cool, and it's fun for me because like as an enthusiast of the brand, I love knowing that they don't like to flaunt it. Like they just gonna like low key make these watches and put them out there, and people are gonna use them and abuse them. But like Omega doesn't need to promote that they're doing it.
Yeah, I will leave names out of it, but certain brands would champion that.
Oh yeah, FXD, right? Yeah, okay. So you were talking about the Mil-Spec, and I certainly do agree with that for sure. For me, I guess my next big one, and I don't even know where this came from. I feel like as I've gotten more seasoned in collecting and kind of more set in my ways, like I'm now the epitome of like the old man sitting in a lawn chair on his yard, like barking at kids to get off of it.
Get off my lawn.
It's like, get off my lawn,
You're,
kids. Like
you're Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino.
exactly. It's like, get off my yard, right? But for me, it's like, I don't even know where this happened, but like, I really want the industry to just stop putting so much dial text on their dials. Like, this is so trivial, but I feel like nowadays brands that are still kind of doing this are almost doing it from like a low hanging fruit consumer, like someone who's going to stumble into your store, knows nothing about what watches they're buying, and ends up buying a watch. And it's like, oh, look, it says that it's 200 meters water resistant. I can go swimming with it. Like, and it's like, just show off to your friends. Like, I think about this. It's like, we talked about the FXD, and I can't get over this. It's like, you created a new watch and you still removed lines of text, mind you, from the standard production Pelagos today. And yet it's still a novel. And it's like, is it really necessary that it says Pelagos and chronometer and officially certified and water resistance rating? Like, is all that necessary, or are those aspects that could have been incorporated on the underside of the movements or of the case back design? You know, maybe not directly in the center where you're going to put the MN logo and the year and everything, but maybe around the periphery. It's like 200 meter water resistance, right?
Yeah, a lot of brands,
like, it's like why are we still feeling the need to smack everything on there? And it's funny because, like, as we were preparing for this podcast, like, I was looking at the Art Deco stuff, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, why aren't brands doing this? Like, I came across some old like Art Deco wall thumbs and Bulivas. There was
like
Longines that was in. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, it just says the name. Like, there's no manual winding, there's no automatic winding. It's just like Buliva. Like, inquire further to find out like how to operate this watch. And I feel like brands, if you are selling watches to watch enthusiasts, which we know can be a pretty decent segment of the population buying watches, we know if it's manual wind. We know if it's automatic, right? Like, I know what the water resistance rating could be, or I can figure it out, right? I don't need it to be like emblazoned all over my dial, because you ruin the dial aesthetic. Like, I was looking at the first generation of the Pelagos, and it just said like Tudor Genève, and I don't even think it said Pelagos on it. It just said like rotor self winding, and then the depth rating. Like, that was it. It was like 2 lines on the top, 2 lines on the bottom, and I'm like, that is the greatest Pelagos that has ever been created. Don't at me. Like, that is the Pelagos by which all other Pelagos is, or Pelagi. Is it Pelagi or Pelagos? I don't know. It doesn't matter. That is the one Pelagos by which all other Pelagi will be measured.
And that's like you were talking about the original Black Bay with the smiley text. Like, everybody loves that one.
Like, why did they kill it? It's like, I feel like the crown just kills everything people love. It's like, oh, I love the flower and the smiley dial. And they're like, all right, we have to take it out back and shoot it right in the face. We have to destroy it for everyone.
No, you have to buy what's new. You have to buy our Skittle-colored Oyster Perpetual.
Don't even give me. Did you hear they already like potentially discontinued the turquoise model, or the quote unquote Tiffany blue?
I guess that's cool, but again, it's totally irrelevant to me. I mean, I never really wanted one to begin with, but
yeah, I didn't either. But
hey,
now they're already $25,000 now. They're gonna go to 50 because like all of a sudden they're gonna be discontinued. So
it's everything nowadays. I mean, kids are making pictures that you can screenshot and selling them for crazy money.
Dude, these NFTs. What is up with these NFTs, man? I
don't know, man. But I used to be a real wizard in MS Paint, man. I'm about to hit that jackpot real hard.
We should start creating watch-related NFTs and selling them.
I had a dude hit me up in my DMs asking me if I want to buy watch-related NFTs.
No way.
He did not get a message back.
Dang it.
I was like, are you serious?
Maybe there's a market for this. Maybe there's not. Bro, we might need the corner of the market. We might need to shove that guy out. Corner of the market quickly.
The screenshot memes are hysterical. That's screenshot.
I know. It's just
screenshotting
like,
NFTs.
It's like, oh, let me just pixelate this monkey and just like screenshot. Like, now I have it forever, even though you paid $450,000 for. Like, it's just like, it's like how and why. I mean, this is a discussion for another podcast.
Yeah, this is like economic disaster podcast where like everything is just fake money.
I just like I
That's
can't.
kind of I feel that way about the watch industry sometimes where I'm like everything is just fake money. I see what things come out for and I'm like, who's got this? Who's buying this? Like maybe I just underestimate how much money everybody has, but sometimes I'm like, it's just play. It's just play money.
You mean you didn't pre-order the Swatch System 51 Neon for Houdinki?
I didn't even look twice at that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I will say this though, I actually kind of low-key like it because of the way that they did the date. So it's cool. It's fine. I already have a System 51, so I don't really need another one, but it is there. And it's kind of cool. But it's $25 more than the standard version of the System 51s used to be. It's 175 versus the 150. It's that Houdinki markup.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe the date. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so there you go. Less dial text. That's what I want.
No, the clutter is a real thing, man. Visual clutter, and that's like I said, it's something I have to deal with in my profession, right? When you're presenting something to somebody, it has to be visually pleasing. I mean, there's a whole thing about how if you present someone food, if it looks better, it's going to taste better, like psychologically, and that's a real thing. And
100%.
And it's like, weird.
Who wants to eat food that looks horrible? Like, I want my food to have like ornate little decorations and like look like shapes and like look cool, like because that's cool. And then you want vivid, bright colors because it looks like it's fresher, things like that. Like we're eating with our eyes before we even stick it in our mouth.
Yeah, right? That's like kind of like the running cliche that goes on in food is, oh, you eat with your eyes. But
yeah,
but they teach you off the bat like you're supposed to plate in odd numbers because it's not pleasing to the eye, but it agitates the eye in like a way that makes things interesting. Odd numbers. And
what do you mean by odd numbers?
Like if you're gonna put something on a plate and you're gonna give, I don't know, like 4 of something, you either give 3 or 5. Like serving
yeah. Okay. So like it was like
if you were gonna put 4 asparagus as your side, you give them 5 instead because it's supposed to be odd numbers.
Interesting.
Yeah, like it's.
I would have never thought that, but you know, now that you mention it, it's like you can never get 4 chicken strips. You can always get 3 or you can get 5. It's like, okay, I see what you guys are doing here.
But yeah, but it's one of those things. Like when you try to teach people to plate, there's not really any formula you can give them. You just have to become good at it with your eye before you can be any good. And it's frustrating to watch people come along, and I'm sure it was frustrating to watch me in the beginning. But just seeing it from the other side where people are struggling to make it look good. Meanwhile, if I had stuff in my hand, I would throw it on there, pat, 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 and I would be like, all right, this looks great. Send it out.
Yeah.
It's just very weird being on 2 different ends of it. Yeah. But that's how I feel when I look at watches. A lot of times I'll look at it as a presentation and I'll say either this is very cluttered or seems out of place or this is pulling my vision away from the overall look of the watch.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting overlap.
Have you ever on a completely unrelated note, have you ever followed that or watched any of that YouTube guy's ID guy on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like he's an industrial designer and like he critiques things in symmetry. And it's like, it's so true. Like color balance, symmetry, the way things are incorporated into design. It's like, it feels like in some cases brands overlook this. And then there are some real winners, like where you get just like, it's perfect and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I just want everything to be beautiful and symmetrical and gorgeous and just like make you want to buy it. Even more than they already do. So I guess they are succeeding in that respect.
Yeah.
But okay. All right. I have a few more. So I think the next main one for me, and this is kind of a pipe dream. I don't even know if I've discussed it before, but you guys know I'm an Omega fan. I really want a new Omega GMT watch to come at some point. Like I would really want this.
What model would it be?
I would want it in 300 meter for sure, but I would want it to be a true diver's GMT, not a 3 time zone GMT. Like I don't need a 300 meter with a 24-hour bezel. Why? Because under no circumstances would I ever time 3 time zones. I want a GMT diver 300 meter with a true diving bezel and an internal 24-hour scale.
Oh, okay.
Like that's what I want. because for me right now, Omega, quite begrudgingly for me, is like they make the 300 meter or they make the GMT and the Planet Ocean, right? And it's just like that Planet Ocean's cool, but you can't really use that bezel diving because it rotates bidirectionally.
Yeah.
And if you bump it and all, and I'm one of the weird guys. Like when I'm diving, I actually time my dive with my dive watch. I still have my dive computer, but I have my dive watch as a
Well, you
backup.
said they go out on you sometimes, right? A dive computer.
I mean, yeah, man. Like I've been underwater, batteries have stopped. Like I've seen guys on dives, like they broke their LCD screen into a coral reef. You know, like stuff happens. And this is why people were like, yeah, you don't really need a dive watch when you, it's like redundancies are a thing. Now, technically, I guess you could dive with 2 dive computers, but let's be honest, part of diving is looking cool while you're diving. So like
Look good, play
so,
good.
Exactly. So like if you're gonna do it, like why not do the Jason Heaton thing? Like rock a dive computer because that's modern spec, it's safety, it's so you don't die or get bent underwater. And then on the opposite wrist, rock your traditional analog dive watch because that's what you should do, right? So for me, I really want a Seamasters 300 meter, which for me is like the ultimate dive watch, but fit it with a 24-hour bezel internal, right? It doesn't need to rotate or anything. I just need it to reference a secondary time zone and give me the unidirectional rotating bezel. That I think would be perfect. And I think for a lot of people, it's enough of a GMT that it's like, okay, Omega made a great GMT, but it's not so much of a GMT where everyone's like, oh, look, they made a GMT Master 2 clone, or it's an homage, or it's a copy, or it's none of that. Like it's its own Omega language.
Right.
That's what I want. And I think a lot of people would probably want the same thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, make it cool, maybe. Get me to spend more money, Omega. I want to buy more watches, but make some cool ones.
Hey man, that new Globey is a little
what do you think?
The annual calendar, it's nice.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like the green. Two-tone, I want to see in person, but I like the burgundy. But I'm a slut for Sedna, so I want to see that one the most.
Ooh. The markers on that are black onyx.
Oh, of course they are, because why wouldn't they be? No, that thing is probably nuts in person.
Yeah, it's I haven't seen it. They're obviously not in stores yet, but I assume probably because they released it, this week or whatever, that it's probably going to be start shipping very soon, probably before the holidays, which is what I would imagine. But that's Sedna, man. The two-tone in Sedna is good. That full Sedna with that Or Massif dial, it's a full Sedna gold pipe hand dial too, which is even more of a flex. So it's not like gold tone, like it's solid gold.
Well, it's in the vein of that watch that I kind of wanted from a couple episodes ago. It's that pie panty, that old Constellation look. I mean, I know it's in a 41 millimeter case, but it's got all those vibes to it, man.
But you know what, man? That's 41 millimeters of sweet, delicious red gold. Yeah. Okay. Like that is like, people are like, oh, it's not thin enough. Like, no, you know what? When I wear that watch, I want everyone to see it. Okay. Like that is not a watch for me to hide under a shirt cuff. Like that's a watch for me to flex and just be like, right on the table. Right. Like that's what I want. That's the kind of watch that I want. And with those black onyx markers, man, I can only imagine what this watch looks like in person. So, yeah, I'm a huge Goldmaster fan. I mean, I own one, so it's I want to see it in person.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to one of my last ones is I want more precious metals.
More precious metals.
Yeah. All things come back in style, right? Gold has kind of been out for a while. I think it's due for a comeback. There's so many different hues and kinds now. We have bronze gold, pink gold, red gold, two-tone. Everybody's got their own fancy gold now, right? The whole steel thing, for me, it feels kind of played out. I'm tired of saying steel sports. I'm tired of seeing watches that all look alike. I like gold. I like the classic two-tone Datejust. Cute case materials.
The 80s are back, man. The 80s are coming back.
Hey, man, that Patrick Bateman, that's a real, although I really think that was a Seiko in the movie. Some people have said.
In which movie?
In American Psycho.
I don't know
I
actually.
don't know. That's a rumor that I've seen on forums is that that's actually the Seiko two tone and not a Rolex. But
Mm,
either way, I would love to know if somebody actually knows.
yeah,
But
but
I'm done with I have so many steel watches. I don't need 18 more.
yeah.
And the Q case materials thing has been fun. There's been a lot of bronze, right? Tudor has all these crazy materials, 925 silver and everything they like to use. But give me some shiny, high polished gold in whatever hue you want.
Hey, I
Right?
mean
It's a timeless look that just
they
says flash.
bro, they got it for you. It's that solid 18 karat avocado green bezel Black Bay. Just
Oh, that's the one.
that's the one for you, my friend. It's like that's the baby girl right there. That is the watch. No offense to anybody who might own that who listens to this, but it's just like for me, I saw that and I was like, no. It's like when they made that 925 too. It's just like I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But here's the funny thing. I challenge you to do this. If you ever see anybody with the 925, look at the lugs and look at the bezel. It dents so easily that everyone I've ever seen post it, it's dented everywhere.
Now I gotta look. I know a few people who have one. I gotta check it out.
Everywhere because it's soft. Not silver is a softer metal than steel.
Yeah.
So it's like catastrophic, like, and they're not like small, like they're like little divots, it just implodes on itself. I have a gold timepiece and it's just like you breathe on it, it's just like whoop. It's just
Yeah.
like craters. I'm like, oh
Yeah, the closer you
god,
get to 24 carats, it's like
oh man, it just craters. But anyway, it's and the other thing too is like some of the earlier 925s, like they're turning yellow. And like it was so funny because like Tudor was like, this watch will never oxidize or change colors. Like, yeah, maybe not the brown, but it's going the opposite direction and it's looking yellow. So
uh-oh.
I don't know. Tudor stability. Maybe it's not there. Who
That's the nice
knows?
part about gold. It's already yellow.
You know, everything wants to go back to yellow,
Yeah.
traditionally
But
speaking, which
give
is
me
cool.
like I said, give me an all gold constellation or a date eight or a Sedna Speedy, and I could die happy.
Yeah.
I could roll with one of those. That could be my one watch collection, I think.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for that too, because I'm thinking about my own collection. I actually have a solid gold. I have a bunch of steel models. I don't have anything in two tone, and I think that may be at some point in the near future for me to pick up is a cool two tone, whether it's an actual full two tone or if it's just plated. Like I don't particularly care, but I just don't have anything that's that style in my collection currently. So that would maybe be a cool thing to look at. There's some watches that certainly do it well, but I'm definitely not going to run out and get a Datejust. It's just not going to happen. That is not for me. That is not for me. So which if you're gonna do a gold watch or a two-tone watch, which would you get?
I would kill somebody for a Sedna Speedy.
The
100%.
new one, the
Yeah.
new one?
Yeah.
Oh, that watch is
I
pretty
would commit murder for that watch.
Have you ever seen one in person?
No, and I tried to tally up all the value of my watches and see if I just sold them all if I could buy one, and I think I'm still a little short, but
I would say this though. Don't sell your whole collection for that one watch.
dude, I would.
Oh,
It's
I think
so
you would
sick.
regret it, man. I think this would be the episode we just aired last week. You'd be down to the one watch collection because you paired everything off.
Well, I'd have watches that have no value that I couldn't have sold, like my Timexes and stuff. So,
Oh my god! So you're gonna be rocking a full set of gold Speedy on every single day, and on the weekends you'll put on your Timex Weekender.
yeah, buddy, that my G Shock.
Oh my
People won't know if
god!
I'm rich or poor.
People are like literally unsubscribing for our podcast as we speak.
I think people are down. I think they would go for that too.
They're like, we're just gonna double wrist Timex Weekender on one, and full set the gold Speedmaster on the other wrist. That's how we're gonna do this from now on.
Now I think I have to do it.
We put it out into the universe. Now it's
Yeah.
gonna become official, right?
That's right.
Oh man, that is too funny. That is too funny.
You have any more left after that?
I have one more.
I have one more too.
Okay, this is kind of like for me something that I really want to see a resurgence of. I really want to see watch competitions again. And let me kind of explain what I'm talking about here. I think we're getting to the point where brands are starting to really push the envelope of technology and development, and they're really kind of positioning themselves against one another, which for me is a good thing because I want brands to be cutthroat and start just fighting and creating new technologies and battling it out and really pushing each other to make better products and put stuff out for the end consumer. Because this was stuff that we used to see happen like in the 60s, in the 50s, in the golden age of watchmaking. Like brands were really competing against one another. In some cases, some of their marketing campaigns were direct attacks against other brands. And I think we need that again. I want brands to kind of put away the PC thing of like, oh, we make a great watch, they make a great watch, but they just do it differently. Like, no, like we're going for the jugular. Like whatever they're doing is not good. We're doing it better. Like I want to see that again. I want to see healthy competition. I want to see brands duking it out. Like to use kind of a more contextual example, right? Like Omega, they have Master Chronometer. Tudor coming out with Master Chronometer. Like that is a competition. Like regardless of what you want to say, quality wise, certification wise, it doesn't matter. Like one brand is coming for the other brand. At least that's the perception that I have. So I want to see more of that. I want to see brands compete and fight it out and give us better products for the clients, because ultimately we as consumers are the ones that directly benefit. More technology comes out, more industrialization comes out, more development comes out, and ultimately we will benefit because we get sold a better product.
Yeah, no, healthy competition is good. I mean, there's no two ways about it. When people feel like they have to compete against each other, it kind of pushes everybody to push their own boundaries and approach things from new angles and try to develop and innovate. It gets boring when everything is just kind of oh, what do you have? Oh, okay. What do you have? Oh, kind of similar but different. Okay. Like give me some rivalry. Give me some we are the best dive watch company, or we make the best chronographs. Like you have so many companies that are into that stuff, right? Like you have Zenith, you have Tag Heuer, right? They're huge chronograph companies, right? Why shouldn't they be in competition with each other?
Yeah.
Right.
And
it's not
even
just Rolex and Omega or
yeah,
Tudor or whoever.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't need to be in the same price point too. Like give me something. I want to see Tag go after Omega, right? Like I want to see them climb, price points or deliver new technology, because again, it makes everybody better. And this was kind of a controversial topic back in the day, but I don't know if you remember this, or maybe you weren't into watches at this point yet. But many years ago, ETA was like, hey, if you're not Swatch Group, like we're not selling you watch movements.
Oh,
anymore. Yeah. You remember this story?
Yes.
So it's like everyone's like, oh my God, they're cutting off the suppliers and they're really trying to choke out the competition. It's like, no, guys, like you're benefiting off of the research, the development, the production, the industrialization of ETA. And yes, they sell you the movement, but at the end of the day, you're slapping your own branding and making a giant profit on it. And you didn't do anything. You didn't innovate anything. And so Hayek Sr. was like, hey, we're done. Like, I'm tired of creating all of these things and you buying them and then making them and selling them as if you did it. Like, no. And as soon as that happened, Tag Heuer started coming out with in-house movements. Other brands are coming out with in-house movements. You start seeing competitor companies making their own ETA versions of movements. Like the entire industry benefited from this. Not only Swatch Group as an entity, not only small independent companies, but other people started to kind of get into this capitalistic idea. It's like, hey, maybe I can design a movement and people will buy movements from me, right? If you had looked 10 years ago, 15 years ago, do you think Oris would be making in-house movements? No, they wouldn't have needed to, because they would have just kept buying them from ETA, right? So it's like that has given us the Caliber, right? The 400 series movements. And like now we have the Pointer Date and it's an in-house movement with, I think it's got a 10-day power reserve too. It's like that is something that Oris would have never been forced to do had ETA and the Swatch Group been like, guys, we're done. Like we'll continue making you parts, we'll continue giving you service things up until this point in time. But after that threshold, like you're gonna have to figure some stuff out. You're gonna have to make stuff your own and really take the brunt of this cost as well as a brand. And again, we as consumers benefit directly from it. It may not seem that way in brands, especially Swiss and British and German companies. They're very like, set in their ways in a lot of things, and they want to do things and make changes, but they're going to do them kicking and screaming. For us as consumers, we need the industry to constantly keep evolving, and we need people to kind of get challenged and put new, better stuff out there. So as much as it may have been a shock to the industry at the time, I think, seeing the progression over the years, it's been good for us.
Yeah, and I remember at first, I know a lot of people who freaked out were like the micro crowd because
Yeah,
they couldn't offer Eta movements anymore.
yeah.
But I mean, they have Salida, they have Miyota, they have
Well,
Seiko,
and
NH.
technically, there are some brands that can still get them somehow. They may have partnerships or contractual obligations that they still have to fulfill. So there are available out there. Like, you can buy some of these things still. But you're right. It was like, where did Salida come from? It just came out of nowhere. Like, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, like, yeah, it's a Salida SW200. Like, I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's basically an
It's an
ETA
Eta, don't worry about
2824.
it. Yeah.
Like, it's basically an ETA 2824. Then Zodiac, like, they have their own version. I think it's like the STS1 or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, it's essentially the same thing, but it's a fossil group Zodiac version of the ETA 2824. It's like, okay, great. Other people are making this. Other people are benefiting from this stuff, and every single one will be slightly, a little inherently different, but the fundamental principles of how the watch movement was designed and created are essentially the same. So, you're still going to get the same type of performance and spec and that kind of thing out of these things. So, again, it's good for us. We need it. We need it.
And speaking of innovation, I guess this I will lead into my last one. Is something that certain brands are doing that I feel like everybody needs to get on board with. Omega does it a little, Cartier does it. There's a lot of micros doing it now. It's the easy strap system.
Yes.
It doesn't all have to be the same one. Your own proprietary one is cool, but I'm done scratching my case, gouging my hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever tried to change the bracelet on a Black Bay. Dude, that is
No.
a tight tolerance. Let me tell you, that is.
Oh, yeah. The little gap is very small.
Oh my God. And I have a pretty good spring bar tool, and I've stabbed myself over and over again trying to get that
especially
thing
when it is a good spring bar tool, like, it's extra sharp.
Yeah.
Because, like, the tolerances are even sharper. So, like,
Yep.
it's like a needle hitting your skin. Yeah.
It is. And so I've shed plenty of blood.
Lost
And a lot
many
of
a spring bar to the carpet.
Yeah. But a lot of independent strap makers are on board with it. They're doing the easy lug systems.
Yeah.
It can't be too hard for these big brands to do it. And I'm not saying
No.
everybody has to use that same one with the little, it looks like the door lock on it, but
Yeah.
come
I
up
don't
with
like
your
that
own
system.
proprietary thing, man. Some of them have a push button I've seen, or like a trigger. Figure it out. Drilled lugs was fun, but not every design fits drilled lugs.
No.
Like, I don't want those on my super dressy watches always.
Well, and the other thing too that people don't realize about drilled lugs is eventually, as you service it and refinish the case, that starts to wear down on the metal, and you actually can start wearing through cases.
I believe that.
Yeah. It's not something that you're likely to encounter until, like, 20 to 30 years down the road. But I mean, it's possible. Like, if you polished your watch like every few years, like, you could start wearing away the metal and start exposing the hole.
Yeah, I tell people that about knives. Oh, there's only so much steel. Every time you sharpen it, you're taking steel off. Eventually, I have like an old boning knife came with like my first kit. That thing is skinny, man. Like, just from sharpening it. But it's a real thing. You just keep taking metal away, and next thing you know, there wasn't that much there to begin with. It's gonna be gone.
Yeah. So that's interesting, but I like that. I certainly do agree. We need more micro adjustment clasps, and we need more easy chain strap systems.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big point for people nowadays is bracelets and technology involved. I know certain people even right now who are looking for watches, and I've mentioned ones that don't have a bracelet option, and they simply will say no, there's no bracelet option.
Mm-hmm.
And with a bracelet, I mean, especially if you have a high-end watch, they're going to want some technology. They're going to want a nice adjustment system. They're going to want some easy wearing, whether it be something like an easy link or an adjustable clasp or something.
Yeah.
I think we're at a point where everybody can offer something in that vein. I'm not saying you have to go and make the Pelagos bracelet I talk about all the time, but even the micro brands now are doing adjustable clasps. And I'm not trying to play them off as punks, but like, if they can do it, big brand with all their money can get something done.
Yeah, and I've said this argument before though, is I think a lot of the big brands, they're slow to adopt because they want to see really kind of the market penetration of this, right? So I feel like a lot of the big brands will kind of sit back and wait for the micros to do stuff because let's be honest, the micros aren't beholden to shareholders, and
No, they're
they're
way
not
more agile.
they're way more agile. So as soon as an industry need presents itself, they're like, boom, we're going to adopt this and we're going to start rolling with it. And you can do it on a smaller production scale. So you can really control every aspect of it, right? The big brands are like, okay, well, they seem to be doing really well with this. People seem to like this. People seem to like that. All of a sudden, boom, they switch it out, right? When you don't do this, you get the crazy weird things that like just fade away into obscurity. Like I don't know if you remember when like the wearables was kind of becoming a more of a thing, and like watch brands were like trying to create like smart leather straps to like track steps and things, but they were fitted to like traditional mechanical watches. Did you ever see this?
No, but it's like sort of like a Fitbit strap.
Yeah. So Mont Blanc was doing this. I think even IWC at one point had a strap like this. It was a strap that had some type of technology inside of it, like a accelerometer or some type of like whatever, and it was connecting to your smart device. So as you moved around your day, you had your steps, measured, all that stuff. You could track, heart rate, maybe. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a way to track all of your stuff from your phone on your watch, but your watch was still traditionally mechanical.
Huh.
It was just like a smart strap. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, who thought this was a good idea? Like, one, it's hideous. Two, it doesn't look great on all these watches because it's like retrofitting it together. And I will say this, from a novel concept, it's certainly imaginative. Or
Imaginative.
yeah, thank you. It's certainly imaginative and innovative. But at the end of the day, from the practical end user standpoint, I'm like, so am I gonna have to do like firmware updates for my leather strap? Am I gonna like what's the end goal here? And nowhere in the micro watch seed was that like a thing. And obviously at this time, micro brands were existent. Like nobody's like, we're not doing this, guys. And all of a sudden, like it was out for like a year or two, and then it's like it kind of like quietly faded away into obscurity. It's like I'm not gonna let these brands live this down. Like they like you need to be
It
called out for
happened.
your
People don't
yeah. It's like
forget.
yeah, exactly. People don't forget, but it's true. It's true. It's like I think big brands are waiting for micros to kind of take that step forward,
The free
make that
market
initial.
research.
Absolutely. They're like, oh, well, this little Halios came up with a cool kind of push button system in the clasp to adjust it. Maybe my new IWC watch that I'm going to launch can have that same type of clasp extension system. It's like
And
they look pretty similar to me.
We got a bunch of money to research it.
Exactly, and it's all free, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and especially with social media, things can get shared so much quicker. You can see design schematics. Brands are posting how their watches articulate and open. It's like somebody can just reverse engineer these components and figure out another way to do it. So I really truly do believe that big brands, because they have so much money and they're very slow to make calculated risks like that, they got to wait till the little guys kind of knock it out of the park first, then they'll move in.
Yeah, I totally get that.
So that's it for me, my friend. You got anything else? That's the last one. You
No,
got any stragglers?
that was it for me. I'm sure there's more. There's always things I think of throughout my day or my commute, and I'm like, oh, I got to bring this up, and then I got to write things down, I think. Although I probably have like notebooks full of stuff if I did
No,
that.
we do. I mean, like, it's not like we just like wing it. We prepare for these things.
No doubt.
We
No
understood the assignment. So
I got to
like,
get a mental note maker, like a little recorder, and throughout my day, just note to
yes.
self. R.I.P.
like
Norm
a,
McDonald.
like a journalist, just like
If you've ever seen Dirty Work, Norm McDonald in Dirty Work has a little recorder. Note to self, and he has all these hilarious sayings.
R.I.P. Norm. He was
R.I.P. Norm.
such a
Epic
comedian.
comedian.
Such an amazing comedian. Okay, well, hey, I will say this though before we do officially sign off. I do want to say to all of our loyal listeners and fans and stuff, and this is episode 8, so thank you guys for hanging out with us. But I really do also appreciate the comments. We've been getting a lot. I know Bro and I are kind of trading back and forth in the comments space on Instagram. I haven't received any emails from you guys yet, so that's fine. But we do check and we try to respond as quickly as we can. We appreciate you guys tagging us in your posts and your stories, so it does mean a lot. So I do want to give you guys a shout out and just say thank you for the support. We really do appreciate it, and we're gonna keep producing the content for you guys. So, bro, have we come up with a name for our fans?
Like Panaristi?
Yeah, I mean, do we have like a community name?
I don't know. I got to come up with one.
I was thinking, like, are they cheeseheads or like?
I keep going back to the Packers. I don't know why. I just
Okay. Well, I'll say this: if you are listening to this podcast and you have a clever, insightful name for which to refer to Wrist Cheese Radio fans, please DM us in the comments on Instagram at Wrist Cheese Radio. Give us a drop, say hi, let us know your thoughts, and maybe if you guys pick a good one, only if it's a good one, will we maybe start referring to you guys as that said name.
The Cheeseristi.
That's it, man. That's all I got.
Yeah. All right. On that note, I think episode 8 is in the books. Schmidt, it's been a pleasure. Take care, all you beautiful folks out there. We'll see you next week. Sayonara.